hey, if I can become good at starting a conversation with people that don't know me and transform that conversation into a sales call and then being able to close them on the phone, I can build the business out of nothing.
Stef Curcio, a former semi-professional basketball player who now helps solopreneurs make money on LinkedIn with his elegant lead generation framework.
I was able to generate 80 leads a month for a startup that is starting from scratch and has no audience, nothing.
I know how powerful it is to ask a question with your connection request to start that conversation. Do you use that approach? And if, what kind of questions do you ask?
Great point. So I have two different kind of approaches. One is if it's warm traffic.
In this first episode of 2024, we'll dive deep into the business model of Stef, where he will not only share how you can use his framework to get leads from social media, but also the way he came with the idea, turn it into a sustainable 10K per month revenue stream, along with the lessons and tools he used to run his solo business.
That's how I operate.
If you're new here, join our mission of helping 10,000 aspiring solopreneurs build location-independent businesses by following this podcast on your favorite podcast station. If you subscribe to the Nomad Solopreneur letter, link below, you will get each Tuesday an exclusive actionable part of each episode recording that won't be aired in the show itself, as a way to thank you. Hey Stefano, welcome to the Nomad Solopreneur show.
Hey, thank you for having me. How are you, man?
Very good. Glad to finally manage to record this episode. It's a long time coming. We planned it from Bali and now you're in Okinawa and me in Portugal.
Been a long time coming, Gabe.
Yeah, but super excited to finally put it into action. I know currently that you're helping solopreneurs making money through LinkedIn, but that wasn't always the case. You try multiple business until you started this one. Can you walk us through the process of how that became a reality?
I started my marketing career as a freelancer, right? And I was doing freelancing for coaches. And my first gig was like extremely successful. We made 1 million and two people, the two of us within a couple of years. And what I tried to do was like, hey, this seems to be kind of easy, right? Like just my first gig, imagine making a lot of money. The solopreneur that I was working for was like a relationship coach, really wanted to pay me a lot of money to stay in the company. I was like, hey, I want to do my own thing because like seems like I'm good at this. And so first I launched a consulting service for coaches and consultants that wanted to basically sell high ticket products. I never got any client for that. And then I tried different stuff. I tried a consulting service because I'm into Reiki, spirituality, and all that holistic healing. And I tried to launch a consulting service for that demographic, which I didn't get any client for. And then I did a bunch of different stuff. I actually launched a coaching, healing program, and I had a couple of paying clients, but I made like less than 100, then 1K like in 6 months or something. And then I transitioned to B2B because I was mostly working in the B2C space. I was trying this coaching program. And then I remember I read Elon Musk biography and I was really inspired by it. I'm a former professional athlete and I read basically a bump into launching a startup. I thought it would be really cool to work with a team where like you pull up all-nighters, like you're very focused on growing your company and everybody's on the same page. I was like, it would be really cool to find an environment like that. So what I did, I applied for some startups. I got a gig for a startup business in Singapore. And I started doing lead gen in the B2B space for the first time. It's really tough. Like my salary was 100% performance based. It was like extremely tough, extremely rough because I didn't know how to do it and I had to learn on the go. Otherwise, I wouldn't get money. But I was okay with that because I didn't have the experience. So I very quickly built that experience that I then used I quit the company and I worked as a freelancer for different startups and I enjoyed it. And then I launched my own business roughly 16 months ago, something like that. So that's kind of like my journey in a nutshell.
Yeah, I love it. Simply because you learn in the trenches. You try various things. You actually did the work. I know that you are big into lead generation right now. And doing that 100% performance based, especially for a startup where you all know how hard it is to build a startup and actually make it stand in the marketplace for long enough to be profitable. And I would like to ask you, what was the biggest challenge when you entered this lead generation space, apart from getting those leads?
Yeah. So before I move into B2B space, the way I was doing lead gen or marketing, however you want to call it, was like I was creating landing pages. I was driving traffic to it. And, I was doing the whole marketing funnel game. But then when I moved into B2B, I was used to working with people that had traffic, right? They had an audience already. I was like helping them convert it and make it money out of it. What I quickly realized when I moved into, I was actually the first hire after the developers. So I was like the first marketing person, the first salesperson. I had to do everything to do it all, and they never really figured out a way to generate leads. So I had a budget of $200 a month or a week. I can't remember, which is really nothing, and I had to
Yeah.
test how to generate leads. The most challenging thing was really creating something out of nothing because I didn't have content. They had some budget for ads, but like I wasn't really investing in ads because I understood, luckily already back then, that to make ads work, you kind of need to have an audience. You kind of need to have a brand established already. So what I did, I really tested a bunch of stuff, literally from like Quora to link building, and we did try some ads, which like never really generated anything. The biggest challenge was like really understand where my audience was hanging in and starting a conversation with them. Because like for me, even when I realized where my audience was hanging out was how do I start a conversation with people that can become potential clients? And what I realized the best way for me to generate clients back then was Slack groups. That was my lead gen, that was my marketing. So what I did, I joined a bunch of Slack groups, and whenever people would, ask certain questions that I know our product could answer, I would simply get in the conversation, send them a DM, say, hey, we also do this. You can do it for free. Do you want to give it a shot? I was able to generate 80 leads a month, which is for a startup that is starting from scratch and has no audience, nothing. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, first of all, but it's also like really good traction.
What I like about the approach is the fact that starting those conversations can lead sometimes to leads, but with partnerships or things like real connection, real network that you can refer to at certain points and so on. And I assume that you do the same on LinkedIn. Like you have the same approach when it comes to generating leads for your clients on LinkedIn.
My approach on LinkedIn is a little different, meaning that I use a combination of content, a combination of branding and outreach. And when I say outreach, I mean both like cold outreach, so starting a conversation with somebody that doesn't know you, and warm outreach, so reaching out to those people that, for example, has visited your profile or commented your stuff, started following you, or sent your connection request. Back then, I was like really doing cold outreach, but now I basically optimize both the short term and the long term with content and outreach, which is like the most effective strategy ever, especially if you're like really serious about building a business that is sustainable long term.
And speaking of sustainability, when did you came with the idea? You blend in the past, like what you did for the startup, and you apply it to LinkedIn, or how you came with the idea of the business model and seeing demand, validating your idea?
So when I was doing lead gen for the startup, I did try LinkedIn, and I started to, I wouldn't say see, because I really didn't generate any clients through that, but like I felt the potential of it. And I was like, I think this would be the right platform for me. Also, because when I tried to launch my own businesses, I had to create a lot of videos, and I realized that wasn't really, even though now I'm doing videos right now, but back then wasn't really something like a content format that would necessarily resonate with me. So when I also saw that on LinkedIn, that just by creating text content and posting a few pictures, creating carousels, you could build a business on it. I was like, I'm all in. And also the targeting is not like Facebook and Instagram or like that. Those are the platforms I used to really work with, where you don't have information about your buyers. Like you can literally go and search for, I don't know, consultants with 3 years of experience, and you have a list of 10,000 people, 20,000 people that you can reach out to. So I saw that potential, and I realized that, hey, as if I can become good at starting a conversation with people that don't know me, and transform that conversation into a sales call and then being able to close them on the phone, I can build the business out of nothing. And that literally what happened.
Nice. And what I love about it is that you test it, you see that it works, and how you went from there to actually making money with it. Because often we get excited about an idea, but from that point to actually start building a long-term business, it's a huge step. How that steps look for you?
I went from trying to being a freelancer to trying to be an entrepreneur, which never worked, to being kind of like a freelancer slash employee again. And I was at that point where I was like, I really want to make it work. So what I did, I invested a certain amount of money, like I think it was like 10K in a consultant. And I was like, I'm going all in. I didn't have the money, so I asked my sister to lend me the money. And I was like, I need to make it work now. And I felt that I had really no like justification to say, hey, this time is going to be different. This time is going to work. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know. I felt that something was different. I was like, I'm ready. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know like what way I'll find to make it work, but I'll make it work. And at that point, it really became a game of, I remember, and this is something that I notice in people a lot, even in my clients or people that reach out to me. I would really celebrate every small win. I was like literally calling my sisters, hey, Letty is my sister's name. Hey, somebody reach back to me today. And I was like, somebody actually jump on a call with me. And I was like really celebrating the first, I still remember the first guy that I didn't know that liked my post. It was a Lithuanian guy, like doing lead gen. I was like, oh my God, this is the first person that I don't know that is liking my post. Like along the way, I celebrated every victory, and that kept me motivated, but also the self accountability. And I was like, I really had my back against the wall. Like I had to make it work. And it was a lot of pressure. It was really stressing, but that helped me really stay the course and not giving up.
And that's often the case, especially when you are with the back of the wall, and especially when you borrow money from someone, like to make it work, you have to do it no matter what, no matter how stressful it is, no matter how hard it is, you have to make it work. And the importance of celebrating those wins, I think it's an underrated thing, because at the end of the day, you have to be grateful. Sometimes you end up in the afternoon and realize, oh, I didn't do everything that I planned to do today. But if you start writing down the things that you actually achieve in that day, you realize that, oh my God, I actually did so many things that probably weren't in my calendar, but I still achieved something. And those small wins adds up and turns to be the foundation. And speaking of foundation, how do you make sure once you start getting traction and you get your first clients, how do you make sure that you not end up in the same situation where before, in which you start something and after that everything goes down to drain? How did you learn
Yeah.
from your past experiences?
That's a really good question, because I don't know if that's happening to everybody, but to me at least, what I realize is that my mind sometimes is still going, hey, Steph, you might lose all of this tomorrow, right? Like next month, I don't know, the algorithm changes or whatever, or simply people won't look for your services anymore. That's a thought that I have, even though my business has been growing since February. It really started getting traction, but really since I launched my new service in May, and it's been really growing since May. I've in the past I was still like struggling with, this week things went well, like I closed 1-2 clients, and then the next week I wouldn't close anybody. I will feel like really down. What I'm really focusing on right now, I have like a self accountability system, I focus on tasks, and sometimes not even tasks, like there's lots of time that I assign to certain tasks. So I don't necessarily need to complete them. But what I do, I have a coach, I have an accountability system, but it's a self accountability system. When I don't complete my tasks or I don't dedicate a certain amount of time to a certain tasks, I donate money, like $100 to charity. And also, if I don't wake up in the morning, if I have a problem with this thing that we have in Japan called melon pan, which is like a dessert that we have, and I was like really hooked on it. Would eat 2 or 3 of those a day. They're very sugary, and I would get like basically depressed and not doing anything the whole day, right? And Red Bull is the same thing with Red Bull. I have the same problem. So I basically, whenever I eat one of those, I donate $100 to charity, and I never had any of it after I had this commitment. And those are like little things, and I realized how much, like how important is it for me. Like I was again a former semi-professional basketball player, and I realized how important it is for me to feel good in terms of waking up in the morning and working out and stretch. Like that like creates like a ripple effect that cascades into having being energized throughout the whole day. These little things really make a difference for my mental health, and also for my kind of like self-belief, that I believe that, you know, I can make it, that this is something that would just keep growing, would not disappear. So these are little things that keep me focused on the thing that I need to do. Now I'm here for my clients, and the rest doesn't really matter.
That's brilliant thing that you said that, because often we think if we want to be successful in whatever, like life, business, we need to find the perfect blueprint. We need to find the perfect steps in order to achieve that. But first, we need to take care of ourselves, how we sleep, how we eat. As you mentioned, like those sugar bombs that can get you depressed for an entire day or make you feel sluggish and not doing anything. And happened to me as well. Like I love eating sugary things, but I found out alternatives that are not the same, have the same dopamine for the brain and so on. For example, a piece of chocolate, dark chocolate, 99%, I don't chew it anymore. I just put it on my tongue, leave it there for minutes, and when it melts, it gives me the same pleasure like I will eat an entire bar of probably 50% sugar chocolate. So it's finding those alternatives or finding ways and noticing what actually is putting you in that situation can be a game changer for your productivity. And especially when you run a business. And you mentioned there that you launch a new product and launch a new thing. And I know that you have a community. How your offer stacks and how you drive people into your world and make sure you're on profit, and as well you're helping them as much as you can.
Yeah. So what I'm currently doing, so I have a community right now. I haven't really optimized my funnel for it. So I'm just like bringing people in. I'm a little short of 500 people right now. It's a free community where I have a lot of free training. I post 3 to 4 times a week. And what I use it just to give value to people. It's a really well done community. I have really good training, and it's all organized basically to get your first few clients through LinkedIn. It's completely free. And I'm now in the stage of optimizing the funnel for it. But really, my business right now is even though I started posting videos on different platforms, I'm using Instagram, I'm using Twitter. I have basically a person that repurposes my content for different platforms, which is the best investment I made this year, by the way. But right now it's dependent on LinkedIn. So I generate 1 or 2 new clients every week through LinkedIn. I have a content and outreach system that it's really automated. Like I expect for at least 4 to 5 sales calls per week. Sometimes I have more, depending on on the week, depending on the quality of my content, depending on a series of factors. But I'm very consistent with my outreach, so it's very predictable what I generate. But I rely completely on LinkedIn, and then I have basically a free community, a paid community that is an accelerator. I have a low ticket price for that, and I have a high ticket price for basically people. The difference, like some people I work with them one-on-one, whereas other people I work with them. I have every week. I have live training. I have trainings on that, but I also have live trainings, Q&A calls, and the low ticket clients can join those. But then I have Q&A calls for like my high ticket clients, and that's like really personalized work. And then plus they work with me one-on-one for a certain number of hours. So this is my business structure.
I like it. And what I love about it that you attract people in your community for free. And from there, they find out about your low ticket accelerator. And from there, for those that are actually wanting to move a step closer to get those leads consistently into their system, you work with them one-on-one and with those trainings. And what's the plan for you moving forward? Once you build even a bigger, even that I will argue that 500 people are quite a lot in a free community, especially nowadays when everyone has one. And how do you plan to nurture those? Probably even not rely anymore at some point on LinkedIn, in the sense that those you can reach at any time. They are in your database, and it's a really smart thing to do nowadays because you never know what can happen with social media. And how you plan to nurture those constantly, apart from those 2-3 times you post there something useful for them, in order to switch them to the paid version of the accelerator.
Yeah. Yeah, so now that's a great question. So what I'm doing right now, I'm building my funnel to move them from the free community to the paid community. So first of all, I'm using School, SKL. And the great thing about School is a really good sales funnel. So first of all, you can have conversations with people that join. And now that I'm starting posting YouTube, I haven't started yet, but Instagram, Twitter. So there are people coming from different directions, right? And the free community is kind of like a repository for all of my leads where I can actually have a conversation with them. Because I think about when somebody joins you, and by the way, when somebody joins my community, also join my newsletter, right? They're connected. But on the community, I have an opportunity to actually talk with them, send them a message. And whenever I send them a message, most of them, not all of them, but I do not know the percentage, but most of them get an actual email that says, hey, Stef has messaged you on the community. So
Yes.
they have a notification, and then I can start a conversation to understand what their needs are. And the other way that I'm using it's basically through a combination of emails and posts on the community, where I have basically call to action and nurturing sequences to move my leads from the free community to the paid one. With a nurturing sequence via email, I mostly move them from the free community to the low ticket. But for the high ticket people, for the high ticket prospects, I actually have a conversation with them on the community most of the times.
Yeah, and that's important because we often assume what people need from us, even that they are there for certain to generate leads, but every person business is different. Every person approach might be different. Some of them might not be comfortable, for example, having a call with someone to actually sell the product or the service to them, and so on. And speaking of products, and because I have quite a few chats with a lot of people that started the same way as you did, and at some point they start building a digital product around it that doesn't need their input that much. It's anything that on the cards for you in order to free more of your time and build like a semi-passive revenue?
That's a good point. It's not something that I'm currently planning. So my community, in a way, it's something that it's a little bit of that, meaning that when people join, they get right like Q&A calls every week, which I do for all of my clients, high ticket and low ticket. But some of them simply join for the material that I provide, for the courses, for the videos, for the resources. But I'm currently not planning to do anything like that. But again, I'm building my funnel now, and I might very quickly see that there is an opportunity to do that early next year.
Yeah, definitely. And especially because having that amount of people there, you might see certain patterns that repeat themselves. And those repeating problems can easily turn into a small, low ticket online course or something. Because it's something that I notice a lot of big creators doing. Like they're literally, even that they can probably share an entire masterclass on something, they simply go laser focus on a transformation from A to B. And I feel like there is a huge opportunity there for you as well to actually spot those patterns and provide that as an extra, as a paid online course instead of a free one. And yeah, looking forward to see how that will unfold for you. And since I'm big into data and numbers and so on, do you mind sharing? Yeah, you mentioned the numbers of your community members. Do you mind sharing what percentage of those turn into paid?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So right now, I have to say that I've not done, as I mentioned before, like a really good job with setting up my funnel, which I'm building right now. So I roughly have 10%. I have basically two communities. One is the free one is the accelerator. I have 10% of at any point in time, usually 10% of my free community are also in my accelerator, either as high ticket clients or low ticket ones.
Nice. And in terms of revenue, if you don't mind sharing,
The low ticket is 49 euro per month. It's recurring. Then I have high ticket products, can either be 8 or 6K, but then I have also have flexible options in between according to what is right for my clients. Some of my clients might not need, like to generate enough. Like I help them setting up offers, right? But some of them have like pretty good or optimized offerings, which where I don't really need to give them any support and I don't charge for the whole thing. So basically, I launched this product kind of like in February, like a version of this, but I really launched my accelerator in April, May, probably. I'm I've been kind of steady on 10K a month. So I'm around 70K right now. I should close the year between probably 70 and 75, probably 75, something like that. So it's been roughly 10K a month, probably a little over 10K a month.
nice, congrats. And that's a huge
Thank you.
achievement coming from last year when you just
Oh yeah,
borrowed some money,
need
yeah.
money.
And now actually
Yeah.
making a sustainable business. And you're just getting started, as you mentioned. And what will be your biggest lesson from transitioning and now succeeding in this, from where you were before and arriving at this point?
That business, it's really a long term game. Meaning that, and I'm seeing it again now that I started posting on Instagram. I really like YouTube, so I'm gonna like create more content for that platform. But it's kind of like I'm creating like short videos because right now you can like the same format. If you create 1 minute videos, the same format you can use for LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts, Reels on Instagram, TikTok, and yeah, that's about it. But it's basically the same piece of content you can distribute to different platforms. So I think it's a really good format and really good way to go about growing on different platforms. But the thing that I really learned is like to be patient. And again, now I'm experiencing that again. Basically, I've used LinkedIn for since September 2022, which is 16 months ago, something like that. And I launched my business September, basically 2022. But what I realized is that sometimes you need time. Yeah, don't freak out if you don't get traction. Just try to understand what is not working. Work on one platform at a time. Try to understand what is not working and find a way to make it work and give it time. Because like I see a lot of people, and actually also me, like freaking out about not getting leads, not getting clients. And right now, I realize that I have a authority, right? That people talk about me, and I meet people that were like they were introduced to me by somebody else that I have no idea who they are. It's it's like exponential, and it feels really weird. But that was possible because I kept posting. I kept trying to, I did my best to give value. I like to every other week, I have a live event, audio live event on LinkedIn. I do networking events here live in Japan, Okinawa, or wherever I am, because I like to bring people together, give them value. And I know that if I do that, then I'll get something back in return. It's not what I'm expecting, but I know how it works by now. And that's how I operate. So, really, my biggest lessons was be patient, stay the course, and keep improving.
Love it. And that the networking part, that thing that actually bring us together as well and met face to face in Bali. It's is the power of LinkedIn, and especially LinkedIn, because of course they are all called social platforms, but I feel like people we met through LinkedIn are more like-minded. They are there for the same reason of growing a business and meeting other entrepreneurs and so on. And it's so beautiful to see that happening in real life as well. And to go back a bit on the structure that you have for your business, like you mentioned as a tool, school. And I noticed that for the landing page for getting people into your world, into your community, you use systemi.io. What other tools are you using in order to run your business?
Yeah, great point. So I'm using Systemi. I'm using Systemi is basically a landing page builder. I don't know if you're familiar with lead pages or ClickFunnels. It's along those lines. And then I use Notion right now. I'm still on a free version. I use Active Campaign for email marketing automation. I use Loom. I use Canva. For lead gen, I'm currently not using it, but I used to use TextOwl and Walaxy for automation and data scraping, but I'm currently not using it. I don't really use anything that is connected to LinkedIn extension because I feel like it's a little too risky, but I don't want to go too deep into that. And also something that I forgot to mention, I also use ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's like a
Without
day-to-day
it.
driver in yeah today's world. And you have specific custom GPTs for your work, or
Do for content, for hooks especially, I use ChatGPT sometimes. I have some prompts. I have prompts to generate connection requests on LinkedIn, which is working kind of well. Like I like it because I have a particular way to start conversation where it's very conversational, more like a social selling kind of approach.
one question about that, because I know a lot of people just send this generic connection request in which they maybe they mention a post that you make or something, but they stop there. And I know how powerful it is to ask a question with your connection request to start that conversation. Do you use that approach? And if, what kind of questions do you ask?
Yeah, yeah, great point. So I have two different kind of approaches. One is if it's warm traffic, if it's somebody that is a follower or has commented on my stuff, I send them connection requests that I call this or that, where I basically ask them two questions. I say, hey, are you following me for this particular reason or this particular reason? Right now, I'm using a little tweak into that strategy where like the first option that I give them, it's a joke. Are you following me because you found my long hair funny? And then the second question is actually a business question. Are you or you follow me because you want to scale your business? And that kind of breaks the ice a little bit. I have some people are like not giving you, if you use the funny approach, not giving you a like a clear answer, but I'm getting more replies, and I love that because I know how to go from a reply to a sales call. Or if I do cold outreach, what I do, I have different strategies. Some are more like I don't want to call them automated because I don't use automation, but I like to call them templated connection requests. Where my favorite for my own business, it's basically I go to an influencer post and I go through their post likes, post comments, and I look for people that fit my ICP, my ideal customer profile. And what I do, I simply say, "Hey, I saw that you also like that post." Not using this kind of structure, but similar, where I say, "Hey, I also do. You also agree with, I don't know, with Gabe that you need a website to scale a business?" And from that conversation, I basically ask them, "Hey, how are things going with your business?" And then I have like a particular way to set appointments.
Love it. And that's the thing, like when you enter that conversation mode and if people reply, it's much more easy. And what I like about the first approach that you have, it's you can validate if they are actually your ICP with that business question. And for those that want to start working with you, joining the community and accelerator and such, how they can find you, of course, on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So
Yep.
if you want to know more about what I call my method, the elegant lead generation method, I recommend you go to my LinkedIn page. The profile page, there is a link to get my free lead magnet, but that will direct you to my community as well, besides giving you the actual lead magnet. Or also I'm posting different content on Instagram, unique content, Instagram, Twitter, soon YouTube. But yeah, LinkedIn is the place to connect with me. Feel free to send me a connection request and just say that you've seen this podcast if you want to have a chat.
Awesome. And I'll put the links in the show notes as well for easy access. Thank you so much, Stef. This was amazing. And to wrap things up, I'd like to give those listening a short challenge, something they can complete in less than 1 week to start getting leads on LinkedIn.
In less than 1 week, that's the most important thing that you could do for lead gen on LinkedIn is to being consistent with reaching out to a certain number of people every day. I recommend you start from 5 and then you slowly ramp it up to 10 every day, reaching out to 10 people you don't know to try to start a conversation with them. Because once you understand how to do that, you have a business. Like you can build something on that particular skill already.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Before you go, I have one huge favor to ask you. If you enjoyed this show, it will mean the world to me if you can share this episode with your friends and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Each small thing helps to get this show bigger and better. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Until next week, Pura Vida!